Good morning. This is Dwight Colby Smith, Richmond, Virginia. What a morning I've had. Wow. Um, Whatever the greeting is for the day, please know I'm just honoring our time together. It's good to be with you. It's good to share me with you, and I trust at a time you will share yourself with me. ChapelintheSky at AOL.com. And we can set up a Zoom.us communication and have a personal time together, which would be really cool. So today's kind of a class. I was sitting here and I was just pondering the void, pondering the stillness and silence of no thought. And just hearing this kind of hum in my ears, which I liken to being in a forest of thousands and thousands and thousands of cicadas vibrating, because that's what it sounds like in my ears. And that just takes me to realize this vibration that I'm hearing with this instrument I'm calling the ear is not there but everywhere. It's all inside my body. It's inside my head. It's what my body is made of. It's the energy of life. It's all these things. So, but I was just concentrating on the void. And then in the distance, I heard a bird. And so I realized that this void from where I am extends at least out to the bird, because I know that's in my world, that's in my consciousness also. And then I just know that this is the consciousness of life. And so I came up with this. I'm going to read it because I don't know that I could really say it without getting off track. And in this pause, I have gotten my glasses, I've turned the light on, I've changed position a little bit, and you haven't seen any of that. It's just like kind of magic. Close your eyes and boom, look what happened. So I just love playing with life and the way life plays with us. And I think all this is just for our, I mean, you saw no gap, and yet there was a gap. The activity was going on, that creation was going on. So that's what today is all about. It's a class on creation. So here's what I wrote, and some of this is from Christ's letters, because Christ's letters mean so much to me, and I'm going to share some of that in a little bit. So I thought of the void, and this is what Christ calls the equilibrium, the place where there's no nothing, there's just balance, there's just nothing. Okay, so he calls that the place of equilibrium. And we can't go there, because if we do, we become unconscious. And that may be difficult to explain, but that's why reading Christ's letters over and over and over and over and over and over, I can finally make sense of letter 5, which is very challenging because it is the nuts and bolts of creation. It's the no thing from which everything comes, and that's all explained and expressed. And I just like to use it in that way, the no thing from which everything comes, and that will be explained here. So the void, equilibrium, no form, no purpose, no consciousness. So with the absence of all that, that is the void. So there's a time, I believe, that our entire universe was this void. Then the Big Bang. The Big Bang is the activation of the void. Okay? And the activation is consciousness. And consciousness can't exist without purpose, so it has purpose. And consciousness and purpose create form, so it can express that purpose in a plane. And that's how we get here. Okay? So the Big Bang is every time I have a thought, there's this void all around me and all within me. And when I bring that thought forth, it activates the inactive. The inactive is, well, let's see, I think I say all this, so let's see what I wrote first. And I'm going to take us to Christ's letter. The void is everywhere, every time present. It is within and around and through everything that is. Regardless how small we can see with any microscope or neutron scope or any of these scopes, every entity we see still has space around it. And that space is the void from which it came. And it's the consciousness that brought that about. Every form has a consciousness associated with it. So the cell is made up of molecules, I understand, through Christ's letters. And I guess that the molecules are made up of smaller entities because everything has to be able to receive, digest, and expel nutrition, okay? So everything has to have a digestive system and a nervous system and a consciousness system for it to function in whatever capacity it is, whether a parasite or a human being or an Earth planet or a solar system or a galaxy. All a consciousness within consciousness, within the void. Okay? And the void is all through it. So regardless of how small we can see anything, there is always space around it. I have a word of my writing that I'm not able to read yet. But anyway, it's vibrating. It's dormant life. It's energy, ready. And in a state of magnetic energy, ready to be given purpose. So I thought of, it's so great to be on camera, because as I wave my hand before me, and as you wave your hand before you, you know that all the space that seems content in its state of inactivity, when we move our hand through, we move it. And the air shifts and moves and everything. And so I believe this is what Christ is saying that happens with the shimmer of motes. So, phew. Okay, so the void is the formless within the form and all around the form. Whatever form that is, a human being or a cell or a molecule or an organ or a system within many systems of the body or a planet within a solar system. Now, how big, how small can we see this? Because it's everywhere present. This truth, this creative process of existence is everywhere present. It's not about believing in Jesus or believing in any God or anything like that. It's just knowing that this void is this God, is this Christ. And when we give it consciousness, we activate it and give it purpose. And now it comes into form. So the formless within the form, the active particles of energy within the inactive particles of energy, thinking about the hand going through. I believe this is what Christ refers to when Jesus called this the shimmer of tiny motes. And so what I'm going to do now with this wonderful technology is I'm going to bring up Christ's letter. I'm going to share it. Whoops. I'm sorry, I have it all set up, so let me do it this way. Yes, okay, wow. Okay, so this is out of Christ's letter. This is letter 1. This is Jesus' experience in the desert and Christ recalling this experience. Just want to make sure that I'm recording, because so often I turn it off off pause, and forget to do that. So here's where it begins. Um, I think this begins on letter 33. We'll see when we get down the bottom. This is Christ recalling his experience as Jesus. This is how personal and direct these letters are. I realized that this creative power I was experiencing was infinite, eternal, universal, filling all space beyond sky, oceans, earth, and all living things. I saw it was mind power. It was the creative power of mind. Notice the lettering and the bolding. Right here, everything that we're reading is bold, but this is how Christ has dictated these letters of these are important, powerful aspects of what Christ wants to bring to us. There was no point where this divine creative power of mind was not. I realized the human mind was drawn from divine creative mind, but was only a candle lit by the sun. This is how big our understanding we think it is. There's so much more that we don't understand yet. At times, my human sight was so spiritually heightened, I could see through rocks, earth, sand. These now appeared to be only a shimmer of tiny motes. So he's seeing this vibration of energy that I talked about, hearing. He's seeing this vibration. My sight isn't there yet, but I know it's coming. Okay, I realized that nothing was really solid. Have we heard that from science? Yes, we have. It's been proven that the molecules are always at a constant rate of motion because this energy is a constant vibration of energy of life, constantly taking form and releasing that form, going to the void and from the void, just as passing my hand through the air is like part of it is activated and part of it goes back into inactivity. When we die, we do not go into inactivity. Our consciousness continues just as the butterfly continues the life form of the life consciousness of the caterpillar, or the tadpole becomes the frog. Okay, everything is, once life has started and consciousness has started, consciousness maintains it and then uses everything it needs for its functioning, its nourishment and nurturement, both giving and receiving. So getting back to the letter. When I had moments of doubt that this could be so, the changes in the phenomena stopped taking place, and much later I discovered that my thoughts, if strongly imbued with conviction, could effect changes in the shimmer of motes. I decide to move my hand, and everything else is automatic. What makes me decide to move my hand? My consciousness, not my brain. My consciousness, there's something in me that wants to move my hand, that wants to make a point. So I'm telling my consciousness what I want to do, and my consciousness comes back and tells my brain how to perform this function. Okay, but it's the consciousness is telling my brain, not my brain. Okay, my brain is just the physical, like the computer. And so anyway, so I moved my hand. So my thoughts are strongly imbued with conviction. How strong is my faith? How strongly do I believe that this possibility of infinite possibilities, like peace on earth, how strongly do I believe this to be so? Because the stronger I believe it, the stronger is my commitment to that consciousness of me, and the consciousness says, oh, that's easy, I can do this. So immediately my intensity of peace on earth, my conviction to it, my desire, my only purpose relaxes into the consciousness, because the consciousness knows how to do this. And so it first does it for me. So I go from my state of excited conviction of giving total authority to that consciousness, and then I relax and let the consciousness of me do it. So first does it in my body, Then all this energy around me is filled with this consciousness of peace and harmony and purpose. Okay, so everything that comes in the orb of my consciousness right now comes into this orb of peace on earth. And if I maintain my conviction to peace on earth, it matters not what goes on around me, because I'm involved in, I'm encased in, I'm embodied in this sphere of love energy. So I digress. Okay, so this shimmer of motes is what science generally calls electricity, charged particles. Okay, so in activity, there's no charge. I think of the computer screen, especially on my laptop, because when it's nighttime, I have a setting on it, so it goes darker goes darker at the nighttime hours because it's easier on the eyes and the body and all this. I don't know if true or not, but it dims. And or when there's little light, yeah, I can just say it that way. When there's little light, I can see the screen just vibrating. Whatever they call that density, the density of the particles. The more dense they are, the tighter they are, and we don't see the individualizations of the particles. When it's bright, everything is good, but when it's dark, we see this shimmer, this constant vibration of like firing and unfiring of the particles. We can see the individualization is what I'm saying. So this is what Christ is seeing in the desert. So rock, sand, water, everything, he's seeing this density and anyway, the individualization of it. Okay, so my thoughts are strongly imbued with conviction, could affect changes in the shimmer of motes, and therefore produce changes in the appearance of the rock or whatever I was studying. And he uses this as he comes to the end of his desert experience. He has his hunger. His normal mentality comes back to him and he has hunger. Let's see, I'm going to take it off share for a moment and then go back to it. This is pretty cool technology, isn't it? And I'm so simple-minded that I just love it because it's very simple. Now that I get the hang of it, because many times I'd hit the pause button, forget to re-record, or I'd hit the stop button and turn something off, or a few times I forgot to put my headset on and would be recording when I realized, oh my goodness, my godness, my goodness. Nothing is coming through because all those things, the consciousness purpose isn't there to make it happen. So I forgot where I was. Oh, so when I give purpose, like I want to be heard. In order to be heard, I have to think. I need the headset to do that. When I want to be heard, I have to remember to turn the pause button back to play. Things like that. But it's just so beautiful when we see life, when we see the creative process is always working in accordance with our beliefs. My belief is what I'm telling my consciousness. My consciousness tells my brain or all the energy around me, all the void around me to attract everything it needs to express. So when we stop thinking about God as a human being and start thinking of God as natural use of energy, we change, It's like, do I want to have a life of peace and joy and harmony and support and loving relationships? Or do I want to be in a place of fear and I have to protect myself and I have to close myself in, or I have to be something for somebody, We get all these things and there's nothing wrong with that. When I was working, there were things I had to do that were part of my job. But I just want to share this integrity. There's a time I worked in classified and someone I worked for asked me to make a copy of a classified document without going through the proper process so he could take it to look at it. And I would not do it because my integrity of my security promise to the United States of America, it was no, I don't know you. I don't know what you're going to do with this, and I'm not going to participate. And even though I could be fired for that, which I know couldn't happen, but you know, if it were with the right lawyer, anything is possible. So even knowing that, I remained in the integrity that no, I would not do it. He begged, he pleaded. I said, no, you do it. If you want it done that badly, you do it. But I wash my hands of it, you know. So, and this is the power of us. When I know that nothing can harm me, guess what? Nothing can harm me. I said to a bully one time who wanted to beat the tar out of me, I said, I know right now you just want to beat the blank out of me. I said, you know what? That won't stop me from loving you. I don't know in the process if I would continue loving or not, but I knew that that was my intention, was nothing he could do could stop me from loving him, because I couldn't stop loving myself. I couldn't stop what love was, and it stopped it. So it's the power, you know, we don't realize, because we've given all this power to a God in a body. We've given all this power to this puppeteer of its puppets. But the truth is, I'm the puppet of my own consciousness. Isn't that cool? I am the son of my Father. I know what my Father is. If I know my Father is a judgmental, punishing Father, I'm going to live according to that Father. But the Father is going to support me. It's going to support his child. Jesus knew this, knew it to the degree where he could heal withered hands, where he could straighten out crippled, deformed structures of being, where he could restore sight to the blind, because he knew the power of this God in him, and he knew this power of God within the individual, and he could speak directly to that shimmer of motes and direct it. You have sight, you have perfection, you know how to do this. I'm just reminding you that you have sight. But Jesus did it, the Christ of Jesus did it from a far different place. And that's why I'm having this class, because I know that I say to those on the call, all we have to do is realize that everything is a tiny shimmer of motes. And when I believe strongly enough that my word directs that power, it does. And I know this in my spiritual mind treatments. When I give my treatments, I visualize that individual in the health of whatever they have requested. I absolutely see it. I know it. I believe it. I trust it. I experience it. And I've experienced it right in the moment as well, you know. But there are times that I'm not experiencing it, so that allows doubt to come into the truth. So I'm going to go back to sharing, go back to Christ's letters. Excuse me. So I could pause that, but then the concern is I might forget. So first I'm going to share. Whoops. I apologize. I keep clicking on the wrong thing when all I have to click on is okay, it just says screen sharing is stopped. So that means I have to share again. And here it is. Okay, there it is. So here's the thing. My thoughts, if strongly imbued with conviction, and that's what this discussion has all been about. You know, in Christianity, they talk about how great is your faith, or how little is it. The greater the faith, the stronger the probability of creating that which I desire. Okay, and that's what Christ is saying too. How great is your faith? So I'm going to move this so I can get more on the screen at a time. I apologize. I could have had this done before, or I could have paused while I do it, but again, the concern is forgetting to unpause. So my thoughts, and I want us to take that consciously as my Dwight Colby Smith's and yours, put your name right in there. My thoughts, is strongly imbued with conviction, could effect changes in the shimmer of motes, the space around me, the formless around me, and therefore produce changes in the appearance of the rock or whatever I was studying. And that takes me back to, we know the story of, in Christianity, we've been told that Jesus was tempted by Satan to change stones into bread. Christ's experience of Jesus is, when I was getting near the end of my fulfillment and starting to come down from this euphoric state of consciousness that I've been involved in to be one with the all that is, I realized I'm hungry, you know? So that's all. His humanity came back and said, I'm hungry. So he said, you know, I could turn these stones into bread, but wait a minute, let me listen to Father. Let me listen to the Father of me, because I know it sustains me in all ways. So I'll listen to it and see what if it has a higher purpose. And so immediately his hunger pangs went away, because his conviction was to be not hungry. So his hunger pangs immediately left. And then a little while later, he came across a man on his path, he says, well-dressed, and he invited him to eat with him. And so Jesus shared his experience in the desert, his excitement. Can't wait, I'm going back to the village. I'm going to tell him this God, it's not out there, it's inside of us. The Father is inside of us and around us. And now we can heal everything, we can have all that we want, and we don't have to kowtow to the Romans or the Jewish hierarchy, because God supports us in all ways. So we don't need the support from anyone but the Father within us. So he says, so let me go to the Father, and this man's, provides him dinner. And Jesus is all excited. He said, I'm going back, and I'm going to basically change the world, because once the people get this, wow, the world will change, because they'll realize, oh, God's not outside. God's not a punishing God. God's not working against us. God is working for us if we but allow that. And the man said, oh, it's going to take many millennia, my brother. Don't be so excited, because these people are not going to be receptive to it. So Jesus said that brought him down. But he got back up again, because he wouldn't be here today telling us all this to his letter. It was at this point that I came to realize the powerful effect that conviction or unwavering faith had on environment when stating a command or event or even a belief. So when we realize that the world is giving us what we believe, it's a done deal. We just have to believe it stronger than our unbelief, and it's ours by right of consciousness, by right of activating the creative process of God. What was even more startling was my mind-opening cosmic consciousness realization that all I had been witnessing was really the creative power or divine mind itself made visible in the shimmer of tiny motes. Not only this, the appearance could be profoundly affected by the activity of human thought. I realized there was nothing solid in the universe. Everything visible was and is manifesting a differing state of consciousness, which determined the composition and form of the shimmer of motes. Therefore, all outer form was an expression of inner consciousness. Wow. All outer form was an expression of the inner consciousness. So the inner consciousness of Dwight Colby Smith is also the form of Dwight Colby Smith. It's the inner. The universe works differently than what we claim our economy works on. The universe works on demand and supply. We don't bring anything into creation without there first being a purpose for it. And when we look at economy and supply and demand, it works the same way. Our goal is to keep creating a bigger demand for a bigger supply, for bigger income and bigger bottom line, okay? So the law of the universe always holds true to itself. Life and consciousness, I realized, were one and the same thing. it was impossible to say this is life and that is consciousness. And so I'm going to pause there for a moment. Good morning, this is Dwight. I'm good. How are you, JB? Yes, okay. Oh, excellent. Okay, that's good advice. Okay, excellent. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, have a great day. Bye-bye. Wow, I was interrupted with a phone call and I handled it and I'm recording again. I'm really getting on board with this technology. I'm very proud of myself. If you knew my simple mind and how complicated life is for me at times, you'd really appreciate um, this advancement for me. So let's see, there was something else I wanted to go to, gosh, I'm really getting good at this. Yep, so I want to go to a different place in the reading. And this is much further in letter one. No, we may not be in letter one now. We may be in, let's see. Okay, it's going to be at the top of this page. It's letter three, okay? So in letter three, Christ says, have you not remembered that in my transcendent state, as I looked at the rocks, sand, mountains, water below me in the Dead Sea, all appeared to be a shimmer of motes. That's why letter one is so important in the letters, because he refers back to it many times to remind us of the God that is versus the God we've been told to believe in. So rocks, sand, mountains, water were differentiated one from the other only by the difference in the intensity of the shimmer of motes and by the apparent density of motes within the shimmer. Okay, so, and it's all appearance because there's as much space around everything that is, I don't know how to say it, because Christ really makes it clear all through the letters. And again, I've been reading them since February 2006, so got a lot of experience with them. So he says, there's no other way I can describe what I saw on earth or convey the facts concerning the true substance of matter and the apparently solid fabric and construction of your world. So I'm going to close all this down and go back to the unshare to stop the share. Okay, so this has been very enlightening for me. I hope it's enlightening for you. This is something that, you know, it comes, Christ says all through the letters that science still is looking for that beginning of everything. But they will never find it because they're looking for something solid. They're looking for something tangible. And Christ says that what they're looking for is consciousness. And consciousness is not form. Consciousness is energy and something that can't be defined. And maybe at some time we will, and maybe sometime, maybe science will find it, but only when science and philosophy and spirituality and religion and all these expressions of God work together as one common element of life and being, we'll never find it. Because this is saying this, and this is saying this, and this is saying this, this is saying this. But they're all excluding the allness around it within which they all exist. So this is a class in integration, isn't it? So thank you for joining me. And I I really hope this excites you as it does me. And if not, I ask you to listen or watch it again, because I'll also make this available on audio if you prefer, or prefer to share it with your friends in audio. Just send me an email to ChapelintheSky. It's easier for me to just do it this way and then upload it to YouTube. All it takes is another action to put it onto audio. So if there's an interest there, I'm willing to do it. But if there's not an interest, I'm just not going to take that action. I'll just have the inactivity instead of the activity. So God bless you. Namaste. The God of me salutes, honors, and blesses the God life, the divine life that you are. And I trust that what you are doing with it from this time forward is going to have a new understanding of why life is doing to you what it's doing, and now how to change it. And if you would like assistance in that, beyond Christ letters, or if you would like direct counseling, coaching from me, I'm willing to do that. I charge nothing. It's just my goal to awaken our world in 2018, to have peace on earth among all people, all animals, all life forms, all trees, all neighbors, all family members. It is doable. And knowing and understanding the creative process and your importance in this creative process. And you know what? You and I get the first benefit of it. For we feel that peace, that joy, that love, that support, that allness within us. And from that, we have heaven on earth. And then everyone that comes into our orb comes into the presence of heaven on earth. Again, God bless you. Enjoy the rest of this day, this week, this month, this year, the year of peace on earth. Namaste.